Hey guys, Lee with LG Speed and Custom here. In this video, we are assembling Kirby's quick change and putting it back under his 32 Ford Roadster. So a couple videos back, we installed this quick change rear end, fabricated all the brackets, mocked it all up in there to work with Kirby's existing 4-bar and coilover suspension. Since then, we pulled the rear end back out, took it apart, and Kirby's son, Brett, painted everything nice shiny black. So it's back from the paint shop now. We're gonna put the bells back on, put the rear end back underneath the car. We gotta rebuild the coilover bushings, they were worn out. Got chrome springs coming that we can put in there, and then we're still waiting on the backing plates to arrive so that we can put the axles and brakes back together. So for starters, we'll bolt this together and get it back under the car, sitting in place. So before I took these bells off, I called Winters, who makes this quick change, and asked what's all involved in taking the bells off. Is it a thing? Because I know on Banjo rear ends, like on factory Ford ones, there's gaskets in here, and that's how you shim it for your preload and stuff. And the guys at Winter said, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. There is just a little O-ring right here. Make sure you don't lose the O-ring. Put it back together with the fasteners, torque it to 30 foot-pounds, and that's it. One side is a 1/2 inch shorter than the other side. I think it was the passenger side is the shorter side. And that's all there is to it. So that's pretty straightforward. It was a lot easier than masking off all the bolts, which I was originally going to do because I didn't want to take this apart not knowing how it goes back together. So let's put our bells back on. All right, we're all bolted back together. I've torqued all these guys to 30 foot-pounds, put new copper coat and stuff on them. Gave it one final rub down before it goes in there to make it all nice and shiny again. So we'll set it on there, put it under, and hook our 4-bars back up. It should just click right together because we've had it in the car once already before it went for paint. So as soon as Jim is done cleaning brake rotors, I'll get him to give me a hand and we'll put it in. The rear end is mostly in. We got to tackle the coilover still. We're still waiting on the chrome springs. They shipped yesterday, so they should be here hopefully today, maybe tomorrow. And we got to redo the bushings because that's all that's left of the bushings. Before we tackle that, though, I think we'll put the drive shaft in. This is, if you remember in the video when we fit this in, we had to get a new drive shaft tube made 1 3/4 inches longer and with a 1310 U-joint. So we'll go ahead and put that in now. All right, back here on the transmission end, we've got like just over 1 inch of slide in and out spacing, which is perfect. Drive shaft done. So Jim is gonna put some bearings on these axles here. So I just called Winters because there's a bunch of stuff in here. And they got these two different spacers, which are determined by what brakes you're running. Since we're just running regular old Ford drum brakes, we need the thick spacer. So thick spacer goes on first, then the bearing. The bearing's got an O-ring in it. I don't think it matters which way it goes because the O-ring's just gonna sit on this surface here. There's also a wheel seal in here, so you got double the protection. As well. Okay, so coilover time. Here is our current coilover. Just a regular old coilover, black spring, polished aluminum housing. The bushings were completely worn out. So I got some Pete and Jake's bushings that I thought were gonna be the right size, but they weren't. So I went and saw Ken the machinist, and he just made a little Delron insert so that those fit nice and snug. Very snug. I'll have to, I can't squeeze it in by hand, but you get the point. So there's our new bushings. Kirby didn't want to put black springs back in. He wanted to put chrome springs in. So these are some QA1 chrome coil springs. These are 200-pound springs, which is what they recommended for a light 32 Roadster like this with no gas tank on the back. To get these apart down to this, all you got to do is there's a little set screw in here. You take the set screw out, and on the bottom of this, hurrah, just on threads. It's basically like a big nut that goes on there. There we go. That comes off. Spring slides out, and then this slides off the top. Put your new spring in, put it back together. Before we put the new spring in, just gonna run this through the buffing wheel just to clean it up and make it look fresh again. Then we'll reassemble all this with our chrome springs. Coilover restoration is complete. So these are adjustable, as I'm sure you figured out. I put a little bit of anti-seize on there when I was putting it together, so we can probably adjust, what, 1.5 inches in height on there, as well as on our rear end where the coilovers bolt on. We've got 3 positions in there that we can adjust our height with. So that spacer sits in there, our coilover mounts there, and then up on the top we've got this bolt here that goes through our cross member, and Our coilover mounts on the other end of that. So if you'll remember in the video when we took this apart, we had one of the coilover bolts galled up on us, which sometimes happens with stainless. So I've got a replacement one, and I've gooped it up heavily with some anti-seize so that the next person that works on this car won't have that same issue. Alright, just using my knee to position the rear end, and a washer on the back side. And I think we can tighten these guys up and then do the same on the other side. Again, I've used a bunch of anti-seize on here. Anti-seize is the best. Both coils are installed again, so now we can put our louvered belly pan filler piece in. Hopefully it still fits. I'm a little bit nervous. It's got to sneak through here. And when I built it, I made sure that it fit, you know, the coilover bolts and stuff. But I didn't actually bolt. I don't think I put the coilover in. Hopefully it'll fit. We'll make it fit. It'll work out. So here's the louvered panel that we made a couple videos back. Kirby's son has painted it. Kirby striped it, and then they clear coated over top of the stripes. So let's put it in place. Oh, it hits the coilovers.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay.
Fuck.
I can fix that.
Fuck.
Why are you swearing? Yeah, this little lip needs to slide in and up, but we're running into the spring. So Jim's really upset about it, but I think we'll figure something out. All right, so I've unbolted the coilovers, got them out of the way. I then slid this back up inside as far as it'll go, and I still have enough room that I can get my Allen key on the inside there. So we'll tighten this back up and then maybe put a little bit of grease on here so that it just goes swoop into place. I think it'll work, but it might not work. All right, I've got both coilovers bolted in. Let's try this now. You know, I seem to remember last week, I think it was, I was watching YouTube and this guy was making a front valence and he's all like, and that's why you always mock everything up all the way. So this is why you mock everything up all the way up before painting. Because if this, like right now, this is no big deal. But if this piece was painted and then we went to put this together, that's a big deal. Ooh, yep. Yep. Bam. Of course it went in. Why wouldn't it? Professional results. Where'd my hardware go? Let me go find my screws. There we go. Belly pan in. Coils in. Nerf bar next. Right. Got 2 bolts there, 2 bolts here. So glad I got that belly pan in. Okay, there's one side. This is way easier to do with 2 people. All right, so all that stuff down there is done. Moving along. He's just Ken, but will the movie change his popularity? Who cares? Look at these chrome backing plates. Fresh from the chrome shop across the street. So I guess we can start putting the rest of this together now. All right, so I've got one of the backing plates mocked up in place. We're gonna put the axle in now and then actually bolt the backing plate in place. So on a normal Ford 9-inch, there's studs that come through from the backside and they won't fit on here, so I'm just gonna use bolts and it'll be fine. All right, whoa, that actually fits too, cool. Hate when you pull an axle out and there's a wall in the way. All right, so I was just reading on the ham before I put this in, and somebody else did the same thing, and you know, when Jim put these on, they're called winters, and their tech said to use a thick spacer. The guy on the ham says you're supposed to use a thin one, so I guess we'll find out. Okay, I'm gonna put a little bit of grease on there. Wait a minute. So these bearings fit through the backing plates? No. Ugh. Well, that is lame. Okay. They're close. I gotta open this up a little bit with like a carbide bit or something. Reproduction stuff, it sucks. All right, I put a little Sharpie index or reference line on there. So we'll start grinding away, I guess. It'll be fine. All right, it's Monday morning. I've got both backing plates hogged out. Let's try this again. Yeah, man. There we go. Hey, don't think that's in all the way, but it's gone through the backing plate at least. Maybe it has gone in all the way. I need an extension. I'm gonna pull these backing plate studs, or bolts, or whatever you want to call them, back out. And put the little retainer plate in. Yeah, we're through the hole. We just gotta suck it up a little bit, so. See if this retainer plate will suck it in. And then we can do the same on the other side and then start putting our brake shoes and everything back together. Oh yeah, it's sucking in nice. Boom, there we go. That went in. Let's snug it up. Cool. That's happy. I'm happy with that. I guess now would be a good time, before we get too carried away on our brakes, let's put our e-brake cable through. Bam. Side 2. So I put the wheel cylinders in and hooked up the brake lines. These are the original brake lines off of the 9-inch rear end that used to be in here. And I was going to reuse them, but they're not even remotely close. There's a lot of extra space in there. And then when I got like really looking at them, like they're not that nice anymore. So let's just make new ones. So I just drew up this little tab to mount the brake hose to the actual center section of the rear end. Gonna cut that out. I think this is 14 gauge. Okay, we've got our brake hose tab cut out, bent, sanded, powder coated, installed. Now we can make new brake lines. Brake lines are done. They came out really nice. Just wiped my fingerprints off everything under here. Let's start putting the brake shoes and stuff back in. So when these backing plates arrived, they were fully assembled with all brand new brakes in them. But when we took them to the chrome shop, I ripped everything off. So now we just got to figure out how to put it all back together. It should be pretty easy. I've done so many drum brakes that pretty much know where everything goes. So I've just got one side all assembled here. Threw the brake drum on, but before I threw the brake drum on, I took some chalk and I made some marks on the brake shoe, as well as some marks on the brake drum. Fit the drum, and sure enough, the drum does not go far enough in. You can see where the drum ends. There's still about 1/8 inch of shoe hanging off on this side of the drum. And on the inside here, you can see where the shoe ends. And there's still like, what, almost 3/4 of an inch of drum exposed. Which means that these spacers in there that Jim pressed on are, in fact, the wrong ones. And we were supposed to use the thin ones, like the guy on the ham said. So I just want to send a special shout out to Winters, for starters, for providing absolutely no literature, paperwork, instructions, diagrams, absolutely nothing with this rear end when we bought it. It was $7,500 for this rear end, by the way. So $7,500 rear end, no instructions at all. You just got to figure it out on your own. Nor do they have anything on their website. I checked their website. They got nothing there. So I called their tech support line, and the tech support line said, oh no, you got to use the big spacers. Definitely the big spacers. Nope, wrong spacers, but that's fine. You know, I'll just take this whole thing apart again, press these bearings off. Hopefully don't damage the bearings when I press them off, because they don't really like to get pressed off. And then press this little spacer off. That'll, I'm sure, just come right off. Push these on, and then put the whole thing back together again. Thanks, Winters. Both axles are back out. I just tried to press this bearing off in my press and I can't actually fit it in there. This is a homemade press, so that might be part of the reason too, but Jim made this a while ago to do bearings on his car, and it works good for getting them on, but we can't get them off with that. This isn't wide enough for the end of the axle to fit through. When he did his, he just cut his old bearings off, but we want to reuse these bearings. So I'm going to throw them in the truck and take them down to Ken, the machinist, and see if he can get them off. Pop! Big spaces are off, small spaces are going back on now. Our spacers are swapped out, get the bearings pushed back in. Thanks so much to Ken the machinist. Let's go back to the shop and put this back together. Okay, I'm gonna re-chalk my shoe. It fits nice on the backing plate. Oh yeah, we're good now. It's great. The shoe is sitting. You can see where our old mark was, and our new mark is like half an inch over. Not quite half an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch over. Cool. All right, let's go put the other side together. Boom, brakes are all done. Just for a little bit of icing on the cake, Kirby wanted these Buick style drum covers to go on the back to keep with continuity on the front so that those match. We've got our chrome backing plates all popping back here. Doesn't that look amazing? I think we'll bleed some brakes now. Brakes are bled. Can put the covers on, put the wheels back on. Kirby just picked up the back tires and took them to the tire shop to get new rubber put on, so we'll have to wait for those, but we can get the front wheels on at least. So while we wait for Kirby to bring our tires back, let's pull, oh man, I grabbed the wrong socket. We're gonna pull this rear cover off and put our gears in, our quick change gears, and then put oil in here. Let me go find the right socket first. 3/8 12 point. So with all those bolts out, we take this cover off, you can see we got 2 spline shafts in here. And that's where the quick change gears go, which brings me to something I totally forgot at the beginning of the first video when we put this in. Like, what is a quick change rear end for people who don't know what a quick change rear end is? Well, the easiest way to tell them is they look like that on the back. They got this big thing hanging off the back, and there's a set of gears that go in there. That's these gears right here. So if you slide them on in the direction they are right now, that's our low side. And our low side gives us a gear ratio of 3.19. If we take them and flip them around, take them off those spline shafts, flip them around, put them this way, that gives us a gear ratio of 4.46. So that's why it's called a quick change, is because you can quickly change your gear ratios. And this works good for, say you're gonna go drag racing. You drive to the drag strip with your 3.19 ratio. Then when you get to the track, you take it apart, flip them around. Now you got a 4.46 ratio, which is great for going down the drag strip. They're also really popular with circle track cars, like sprint cars and stuff like that, because different circle tracks are sometimes different lengths or different conditions, and you can adjust your gear ratio accordingly. So on the back here, there's a chart here, because you can buy these gears in many different sets. So this is a number 4 set, which is what gives us our 3.19 and our 4.46 ratio. And what that means is we've got one set of teeth has 22 and the other gear has 26 teeth on them, as you can see here. So yeah, that's a quick change rear end. That slides on just like that. And then this guy, we got to turn a little bit to get our teeth to line up. There we go. And it slides in like that. And we can put our cover back on and fill this full of oil. So we've got Winter's gear oil that we're going to use. It's just a fill plug here. And it does say when you first fill these up, because all the bearings are dry, that you got to let it sit for, as you're putting oil in, like let it sit for a little bit so that the bearings can soak up all the oil. So while I was waiting for this one bearing to kind of soak up some of the oil, I was on Winter's website and realized you're actually supposed to fill it from the hole up here, which I thought there was a hole up there, but when I was feeling around, I couldn't feel anything. So you're supposed to fill it up there and it will run out here when it's full. I don't know if it makes a difference if you fill it here till it runs out or fill it there to run out, but I'll put a couple pumps in the top until it starts coming out of here. It's full. It took quite a bit more oil. So yeah, maybe there is some. I just assumed that would be totally open underneath, but maybe not. Just as I finished cleaning it up, Kirby showed up. New tires. So we can put this thing on the ground. Well, there it is on the ground. As you can see, the knockoffs are not on anymore. I'm going to take those over to Ken, the machinist, and he's just going to, I don't know if he'll throw them in the lathe or the milling machine, but something, we're just going to take the top off this to just get rid of the American racing and just have it completely smooth. I suggested that to Kirby yesterday when we set the car on the ground, and he liked it. So we're going to have to raise the rear end up a little bit. We set this down a lot lower than the car used to be. Kirby wanted to see how low we could get it. And we're a little bit too low right now because from right in here on our rear end to our belly pan, we've got about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch travel right now. And when Kirby sits in the car, it's really hard to see in here without a light, but yeah, when Kirby sits in the car and then Jim sat in the car and it got closer to like 3/8 of an inch. So what we're gonna do is, we can't raise it anymore with this, we can only lower it. But these lower shock mounts here, we've got, I should have brought a light with me. We've got 3 positions here. We can go to this hole here and this hole here to raise it up. So we're gonna try the middle hole and see what happens from there. Okay, by moving it up one space on here, we've got tons of room in here. I can almost fit 3 fingers through there, which I think will be, you know, that's about the same space that we've got between the axle tube and the bottom of the frame. So that should be okay. While I had the weight loaded on the suspension, I went and tightened up all our 4-link bars. You shouldn't tighten your suspension components with the suspension hanging. You want to tighten them up with it under load at your like ride height. The bushings are much happier that way. So as far as our stance, you know, we went back up. We're about where we started on this car, but I think it looks okay. And then from the back, if we get this floor jack out of the way, if we stand back, you know, with it raised up a little bit, that quick change center section just goes pop so much more. So I think it's okay. Go around the block and see how it feels. Alright, we got back from our road test around the block. Quick change is a little bit noisier than I expected it to be, but I mean, that kind of makes sense when you got 2 gears meshing together, just like a supercharger or a gear-driven timing set. So the last thing we're going to do on this car, rear window. This is a Sid Chavers hot slot rear window. It's a pretty cool piece. You can loosen these little guys here off and it swings open like that. Give you what, Kirby's ponytail out in the breeze. So this car originally had just like a boat top window in it before, and I've gone ahead and replaced it with just a solid panel. Apologize, I didn't film any of that. I just went ahead and did it without even thinking about it. But essentially it Velcros in on the sides here, has a zipper across the top, and then glues on the bottom. So Kirby came by earlier and we tried this window in like 1,800 different locations and decided that 6 3/4 from the top, which is about there, is where he thought that it looked best, combined with you can still actually see out of it from the rearview mirror. If we go any higher, you start to lose rearview mirror visibility. So I've never installed one of these tops before, but I did check out Sid Chavers' website, and he's got step-by-step instructions on how to install this, so I'm pretty confident that we can figure it out. We've got all these Allen keys in here. We got to take all those out, separate the frame into 2 pieces, and then use, this side's got no holes in it, so we'll use the inside as a template, lay it on the outside, and then we can mark all our holes, punch our holes, sandwich it together, with the lens in there, and then you just cut the top out from the inside with a razor blade. Pretty straightforward. That's how I've done convertible top windows like that before. It's kind of a pretty standard thing. So yeah, we'll blast this apart and then lay it out. All right, round of applause, everybody, for Jim, our lovely assistant. Okay, now that this is clamped in place, bolted in place, we're gonna take a brand new fresh razor blade and slice her center out. Boom. All right, our window is almost done. Get this tape off of here. So now we've got our window frame, and it's got two little pins that go in each side on here, and they slide on there. And then we've got our lens that gets sandwiched in between them. These are the pins here. They're essentially like the same as like a dowel pin that holds a bell housing to the back of the block. Same concept. I got our frame slid in from the back side, or the outside I should say, on our little pins that we put in. Here's our lens. It goes in that way. I'm gonna peel these edges back just to it sits right in there. Try not to get fingerprints on this. Hey Jim, I think I need your help again. If you just want to grab that orange rag and just hold the bottom of this frame from spinning out with the rag so that you don't get fingerprints on it. Push it back in. Yeah, just hold it. When I go to push this in, it wants to keep popping out. Yeah, I don't want fingerprints on this. Let's put this on the bench upside down. We flip this on the bench upside down because then we can put it together without having to fight gravity. Wow, that was 1,000 times easier. windshield. Rear window is in. It's closed. And then you can pop it open and lock it in place. Boom. So Ken came by and dropped off the center caps with the American Racing logo machined off. So we're gonna go ahead and bolt these guys back on, and then Kirby's coming by this afternoon to pick the car up. We still don't have the front valence. Still needs to, it's at Brett's son's place, or Kirby's son's place right now getting painted. So I don't know if we'll get that on or not, or maybe that's something that just Kirby and his son will do. Be nice to see it finished though. I haven't seen it since it got painted, and Kirby did some gold leaf lettering and stuff on it. So anyways, we'll throw these center caps back on and then back the car out and get ready for Kirby to come and pick it up. All right, that's it for the build on Kirby's 32 Roadster. Thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. If you want to show your support for this channel, please check out the website, lgspeedcustom.com. Get yourself some LG Speed and Custom merch. I'm gonna get back on my trailer build now. So thanks again for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about Kirby's 32 Roadster and the little makeover that we did on it. So see you guys later.